On the third day of Jaysmas, I reviewed a Punch-Out deck. Pato Box. Punch-Out for NES is one of my absolute favorite games of all time. I think I could easily count it in my top 5. So an indie game taking on the Punch-Out formula? Hell yeah, let's see it. How do I explain Punch-Out? Basically, it's a boss rush game that relies heavily on quick reflexes, features an array of goofy international stereotypes, and is easily one of the tightest playing games in the entire NES library. It has to be, or else beating Mike Tyson would be impossible. Heck, just playing him on a non-CRT TV is already putting you at a disadvantage. But anyway, let's get back to the featured game here. Pato Box takes that gameplay of Punch-Out, but builds a story around it that actually includes you exploring this enormous hotel as you make your way from fight to fight. The visuals are done in this black and white noir style, which looks pretty cool. Never mind the fact we're playing as a duck with the body of a human boxer, or is it a boxer with a duck's head? The exploration bits take up a large part of the game, not only because we're talking to people and reading texts which flesh out the narrative, but also because getting to fight our opponents isn't as easy as just walking up to them. Each floor of the hotel hosts different types of obstacles that we must deal with before we can have our match, whether that be avoiding security detection, surviving a series of hazardous conveyor belts, or even winning it big in a casino. The bosses themselves are quite a rogues gallery, each using an arsenal of unique moves that definitely shouldn't be boxing legal during their matches with you. Sometimes you have to face off against robots that your combatant is summoned. Other times you're tasked with a dodging endurance round as a machine blasts you with projectiles from all sides. In one instance, you're fighting a chef as he's in the middle of cooking a giant pot of stew. Make sure you catch the right ingredients while also dodging those soupy attacks. I honestly think that all of this is great, Punch-Out style gameplay against an eclectic group of bosses who are anything but boxers most of the time, and an adventuring puzzle action thing going on in between the fights to boot. I do have to say though that unfortunately I didn't love this game. Really, it mostly just boils down to two things. For one, I had an extremely hard time reading the opponent's moves to learn the strategies for fighting them. I'm not sure what it is exactly. It may be the lack of color making unimportant background objects and significant tells blend together for me, or it may just be my inability to catch a lot of the subtle differences in the animations, but I struggled a lot with this game visually. The other thing, and probably most important, is that the controls just didn't feel as tight as they probably should have been. As I stated earlier, the only reason Punch-Out works is because the gameplay is so tight. While not broken by any means, the controls just didn't quite meet that level of polish, or at least that's how it felt for me. And with loose controls, it means that first problem of mine is exacerbated further. There were a lot of elements to this game that I loved, but I had a lot of frustration with it too. I don't mean to sound harsh, but it's because of the fact that it could have probably been up there as one of my favorite games of the entire year that it makes me feel more compelled to explain the problems I had with it. I'm well aware that video games are not easy to make, and the fact that this indie team was even able to come out with something this cool is amazing unto itself. I would love if these guys took a crack at this same concept, tightening those controls up more, and maybe consider adding some color this time to help people like me who had trouble catching those visual clues.